With both 11 and 13-inch versions available for the iPad Air and iPad Pro, which one should you buy? Let's take a close look at both of Apple's 2024 tablets and see which is the better bargain and has the biggest differentiating features. I've got both the 2024 13-inch iPad Air and the 2024 13-inch iPad Pro here in the studio, and I've spent the last 2 weeks or so testing them out. At full MSRP, the iPad Air will run you $799, while the iPad Pro jumps to $1299. Since they're roughly the same size, let's start by talking about the displays. They're advertised as 13 inches, but the resolution differs slightly. The iPad Pro is 2752 by 2064, while the iPad Air is 2732 by 2048. Despite this, the pixel density remains the same at 264 ppi. Apple calls them both Retina displays, so you're not going to notice any difference there. Where the iPad Pro starts to separate itself is its use of ProMotion and OLED technology. iPad Pro has SDR brightness of up to 1000 nits across the full display, versus only 600 on the Air. When using them outside, I could tell the difference quite a bit in bright light. If you've used the 2022 iPad Pro, the Air is the same as we saw there. OLED also boasts a much higher contrast ratio, with blacks very deep and colors popping even more. Of course, both look great, but it's hard to beat the OLED display. ProMotion is one of those features people feel very strongly about. That's the variable refresh rate that allows the iPad Pro to adjust from 10 Hz all the way up to 120 based on what you're doing, versus the fixed 60 Hz refresh rate on the iPad Air. iPad Pro will have a low refresh rate while you're just staring at your home screen, but can jump up to 120 Hz while playing a game or scrolling in Safari. The same thing goes for when you're using your Apple Pencil. The low refresh rate on the Air is super noticeable to me, but others may not care. You can see in these high frame rate clips how the iPad Pro keeps up so much better in both scrolling and when using Apple's titular stylus. Speaking of the Apple Pencil, both tablets support the new Apple Pencil Pro or the Apple Pencil USB-C. If you want to know more about the new Apple Pencil Pro, check out my dedicated video that I've linked here. Another difference with the displays is that the iPad Pro does have the option for the anti-glare finish. It's this new chemical-based nanotexture option that'll help diffuse light when outside. This can be really split on whether or not you need this or not. It's an extra couple $100 on the 1 or 2 terabyte versions, but if you use this outside a lot, there's going to be people who appreciate this, but it's not an option at all on the iPad Air. Again, if you want to know more of the intricacies on the new display and the nanotexture finish, check out my other video comparing them in much further detail. Let me know down below in the comments if you prefer the glossy or the anti-glare finish. Moving on to the internals. There's much to discuss when comparing the M2 to the M4. Hey, real quick, do you want to experience twice as fast load times in Safari on your iPhone, iPad, and Mac? Then download Magic Lasso Adblock, the ad blocker designed for you. It's easy to set up, blocks all YouTube ads, and doubles the speed at which Safari can load. Thank you to Magic Lasso Adblock for sponsoring today's video. Magic Lasso is a fast, efficient, and high-performance ad blocker. With over 5,000 5-star reviews, it's one of the highest rated Safari ad blockers for your iPhone, iPad, and Mac. Magic Lasso blocks all intrusive ads, trackers, and annoyances in Safari and lets you see the difference that ad blocking makes. And unlike some other ad blockers, Magic Lasso respects your privacy and doesn't accept payment from advertisers. The app also blocks over 10 types of YouTube ads, including all video ads and pop-up banner ads. So, join over 300,000 users and download Magic Lasso Adblock from the App Store or via magiclasso.co. As a special offer for AppleInsider viewers, use the link below to receive 1 month's free access to all of the app's features. Thanks again to Magic Lasso Adblock for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it. The iPad Air graduated to the M2 in this new generation, a fairly known quantity as it was the chip that the iPad Pro used to have. It uses 8 CPU cores, mixing 4 performance cores with 4 efficiency cores, with a 10-core GPU. It also has a 16-core neural engine as well as the media engine for hardware-accelerated video encoding and decoding. Memory-wise, it has 8 gigs with 100 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. The iPad Pro, meanwhile, has skipped a generation and moved on to the M4, of which Apple has 2 variants it offers in the iPad Pro. The first version has a 9-core CPU with 3 performance cores and 6 efficiency cores, which is sold with 256 or 512 gigabyte capacities. The 1TB and 2TB models get a 10-core CPU with 4 performance and 6 efficiency cores. I am testing the latter of the two here. Both M4 chip variants have a 10-core GPU, complete with hardware-accelerated ray tracing. There's also the Media engine with 81 decoding support and an upgraded neural engine. Memory consists of 8 gigs on the gigabyte class models, 16 gigabytes for terabyte versions. Memory bandwidth is up over the M2, hitting 120 gigabytes per second. In Geekbench 6, the M4 scored 3612 and 13684 for the single and multi-core tasks, while the M2 in the Air notched only a 2644 and a 9293. That's a 47% increase on that multi-core score for the iPad Pros. In Antutu, we saw a cumulative score of 1860995 on the iPad Air, which was dwarfed by the 270256 score on the iPad Pro, the biggest contributor of which was the improvements in the GPU. I also ran the Wildlife Extreme stress test, which loops the benchmark 20 times. iPad Air maxed out at 40 frames per second, but dropped as low as 16 during the middle of the test. iPad Pro, though, peaked at 60 and bottomed out at 24. The iPad Pro's worst score during the test was 6610, which is still far more than the iPad Air's best score of 4847. The M4's best score was a whopping 8449. For graphics, I pit the 10-core M2 GPU against the 10-core M4 GPU in the Geekbench Metal Compute Test, which scored 42453 and 53780 respectively. I was able to play games like COD Mobile pretty easily on both, but pushing things with Genshin Impact, I did see the benefits of iPad Pro start to pay off with almost a perfect 120 FPS while on the high graphics setting. I did a quick video export test too in Apple's Final Cut Pro. This isn't the new version because that's still supposed to be coming, but the latest version that's available. I exported slightly quicker on the Pros, a 10-minute 4K video finished in 4 minutes and 5 seconds on the Pro, which took 4 minutes and 38 seconds on the iPad Air. Of course, iPad Air uses Touch ID for authentication compared to Face ID on the Pro. I much prefer Face ID, though I do keep putting the camera on the wrong side now. Other changes here to mention, there are nearly identical rear-facing cameras, though iPad Pro also has LiDAR and the new improved flash, which is great for document scanning as well as photos. Finally, there are 4 speakers in the Pro tablet, while there are only stereo speakers for the Air. Similarly, with mics, split 2 and 4 for the non-Pro and Pro versions. They each support Bluetooth 5.3 and Wi-Fi 6E, and have a USB-C port for wired connectivity. The iPad Pro does have Thunderbolt, which can enable faster peripherals. This is great for data transfers or when you're working off of an external drive. Ultimately, these are both great tablets, but the Pro has a lot of what I'd consider nice to have features. I wouldn't consider OLED, LiDAR, faster data transfers as critical, but are for sure nicer if you have the choice between the two. No one is arguing that the iPad Pro isn't the better tablet, just how much of those features are necessary. Almost everyone is going to be better off with the iPad Air, or even a last generation iPad Pro if you can still find them. But let me know your thoughts. Which one will you buy? Let me know in the comments, and if you want to pick one up, whether the iPad Pro or the iPad Air, I put discount links for these in the description down below. Be sure you guys are subscribed to the channel with those notifications turned on so you don't miss my latest video. We'll see you next time.